Hiring is one of the most important decisions a business makes, and the resume only tells part of the story. Coach Cora helps organizations bring data insight to the hiring process through assessments that look at communication style, work preferences, and personal motivators. But we don't just hand you a report and wish you luck. Each assessment includes a consulting meeting to help you understand what the data means and how to use it in the interview. Because when you understand how a person communicates, what drives them, and how they prefer to work, you can ask better questions, make stronger decisions, and build better teams. Go to CoachCora.com for details.
The People Playbook is for professional business owners and leaders who understand business rises and falls on people. You will hear practical, real-world conversations on clear leadership, smart hiring, and building strong teams, all formulas for retention. Get ready to hear your professional peers and industry experts as they discuss lessons learned and best practices. Get that journal out. You'll be taking lots of notes.
Welcome to the People Playbook. This is Coach Cora, and today is the monthly topic-focused episode, bringing you information on key strategies in your People Playbook. A key element of the 5 disciplines is execution. And today I'm going to talk about one of the enemies of execution, and that is the inefficiency of over-efficiency. In organizations, we often add processes because we're trying to solve problems. We want better communication, stronger accountability, more consistency, fewer mistakes, clearer reporting, all very good intentions. Over time, when we're not watching, those good intentions become problems. We add one more form, one more report, one more approval, one more dashboard, one more meeting, one more required update. And before we know it, the people we hired to do the work are spending more and more time proving, tracking, and reporting on the work, and less time actually doing the work. What we see is nurses pulled away from having their hands on patients, officers pulled off the street, leaders pulled away from the floor and from leading their teams, frontline employees pulled away from their customer. That is not efficiency. That is an administrative drag. I challenge every leader to ask, have our systems become a support to the work or a detractor from the work? And here to join in on this conversation is Dean Jenkins, the founder and CEO of Black Diamond Solutions, and also my brother. We have heard him before here on the People Playbook and know that he is a wonderful conversationalist and always brings tremendous insight. Thank you, Dean, and thank you for joining me today.
Oh, glad to. Thanks for inviting me back, and I'm looking forward to the conversation. I've experienced this, and I'd love to offer any kind of thoughts that would help people avoid it or escape it.
Because sometimes we get a little more focused on the logistics than on our purpose. You've seen that happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you've been
Absolutely.
in technology and in manufacturing. Of course, you've been in the military. You've also brought some products to market. So you have seen efficiency at its best and worst.
Absolutely.
One of the things I want, before we dig into, I have 3 core questions that I want to challenge our leaders with. Before we do, you were sharing with me last night one of your favorite theories. Can you summarize that theory for us real quickly?
Yeah, it's called Price's Law, and it says that the square root of the number of people on a team do half the work. So if you have a team of 100, the square root of 100 is 10. So a team of 100, 10 people do half the work. and that's pretty interesting. And it's not because the other 90 are slackers, right? There's some people that are just gifted and equipped for the particular task or whatever, right? So, and I think we've all experienced that, being a part of a team or whatever, and just see, there's a small number of people who just rock and roll. And one of the dangers that happens in that situation is that, you got these top performers who are just rocking it. Then it's like other people, it's like, well, they're the ones getting the work done. We need to know what's getting done, so we need them to come to more meetings and keep us up and provide more reports, and it ends up making it worse. And then the absolute worst thing, and I've seen this happen, is okay, we got this 10% are our top performers, and it's like, hey, you guys, what you need to do is go write a course on what you do, so we can teach everybody else to be like you.
Or SOPs. Yeah.
Right. And how have you seen that work out, Cora? Has that worked ever?
You know what is interesting, though, is that you bring this up. There's been so much research come out in organizational development and performance and organizational efficiency, is that post the pandemic, what we saw is, of course, organizations all of a sudden like, oh, we got to go remote and all of that. And then all of that happened. And now all of a sudden, in the pandemic and coming out of it, we've gotten so hyper focused on people proving that they're working. And now the answer is, well, we're just going to pull you back, gosh darn it. So it's not about a clarity of expectations or coaching or developing. It becomes this hyper focus on measuring whether or not you're doing it. I need to know you're doing it. And especially if I can't see you, I really need to know. And if you're going to come back where I can see you, that's what I'm going to measure. How many hours are you on your seat? How many times are you reporting? How many meetings are you in? And that becomes not just inefficient, but it just drives disengagement of your workers. Now they're really doing less.
So I got two different quotes that might help, at the point we're at right now. And so that when I first joined Intel Corporation, they had a contractor that they used for first line manager training, and he had a small consulting firm, and he'd done quite a bit of research, and it was amazing stuff. And what they taught was, hey, as a manager, you have 3 overriding above everything else jobs. And the first is to provide clear direction, goals.
Absolutely.
Right?
First and foremost.
Establish the goals.
Yes.
Right. So clear direction, the resources needed, right?
Right.
Whatever, in terms of, people, supplies, whatever.
Right.
Establish the goal, provide the resources, and give feedback.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the management task.
Direct to the expectations.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you just focus on doing that well, you'll be surprised how well your team performs.
Right.
And just prioritize that. And so then that's a quote I just remember from nearly 30 years ago. Because it's true and it works. And then the other an axiom that we used at Intel was what gets measured gets done.
Sure.
And what gets rewarded gets done again.
Right.
And so if the measurement is process adherence or reports or, whether you were paying attention on the Zoom call, that's what gets done. And the further it gets disconnected from true output, well, you're going to get what you measure.
Right. And that's such a manufacturing mantra, right? What gets measured, if we got to focus on the measurements and we have to reinforce that, and that's what's going to get done. And the challenge is, if I believe that, and that mentality is so heavy in manufacturing and in construction and in healthcare and in so many other, in energy, right? But if the processes we're using to measure are taking people away from the work, is it really getting done? So, and I'll share an example with you. I was leading a leadership development program. It was a company that was truly invested, and they had leadership development programs for each level of the organization, and they were ongoing. And we were working on execution. Are you good at getting done what you're supposed to be doing? And I was hearing from the group some pushback and some excuse making. So I said, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do a mini workflow analysis. I'm going to ask you to go analyze your workflow. How much are you getting done? How are you spending your time? And compare the work you're doing to your top priorities, that golden triangle, right? The work that's most important, are you spending time doing that? And the work that's least, are you not spending time doing that? And I was shocked because what they came back collectively, they all came back and were discussing, and it was across the board. The reason they weren't getting any work done is they were in meetings. They were showing me their calendar like, Cora, I have 2 hours in the week to get all my tasks done because the rest of the time I'm in meetings. Mm-hmm. And it was this organizational disease of the way they checked on work and exchanged information was through meetings. And it really became strong feedback for the leadership and for the culture. And they went in and started proposing, like, 3/4 of the meetings we don't even need to be in. And that is such inefficiency. I know you've seen that.
And, people can, it's easy to attack meetings, right?
Yeah.
But meetings aren't the problem because, getting the people involved in the work together to discuss the work and coordinate, that's critical. That's work, right?
Yeah.
Right. But
agreed.
If the meeting is to get an update from the workers so I can go give an update to the next level of management who's going to have a meeting to give, right. And it's, we've all heard of the law of diminishing returns. And typically when there's some first layer of process or control you put in, it's because there's a real problem.
Right.
Right.
Sure.
There's some degree of chaos. Right. And,
right.
And it's like, hey, we need to put in some control so we get some more consistency. Right. And so that first layer typically adds tremendous value.
Right.
And then we layer it, and pretty soon the process becomes the product, right?
Right.
We've lost focus.
That's right. Right. And so that would be the key point, right? That first and foremost, the process should support the core function, not replace it and become the purpose. This is Coach Cora on 9:30 a.m., the People Playbook, and I'm with Dean Jenkins discussing ways to reduce the inefficiency of over-efficiencies. So the second point that I would love to bring in is every added task has a cost, right?
Yes.
So when we're adding tasks in, that's a little bit what you're talking about. When I start layering it, true efficiency is not measured by all the check boxes. It's measured by whether or not organizations are serving our customers better, making decisions faster, making communication clearer, which is ensuring that our performance is stronger. So true efficiency, we're measuring the outcomes, not the inputs. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And it's much easier, I think, in manufacturing because there's a product, right? And there's it comes off the end of a factory line and it gets boxed up and shipped out. And if the goal is to ship 100 things a day, that's super visible, right? But if it's software development or research or even care delivery, it gets a little more difficult, a little more a little fuzzy. But that, again, I think that's the manager's job, right? Clarify the goal. Right.
Yeah.
Right. What does success look like? What are we here for? And what does success look like? Right.
Yeah. And I think a perfect example of your point is you look at healthcare. Is we're so busy being worried about what the nurses are doing that we're pulling them into their office and putting their hands on the computer, not their hands on the patient. And that's incredible inefficiency. And really goes against what are the core functions here? We're here to your point, deliver care, and we can measure quality care. But quality care is not measured by my hands being on the computer. It's by the patient and the care they're receiving. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And to your point, you were talking about this a little bit, when we start having a process that creates distance between the employee and the customer, then we're really getting away, and we're really adding some costs, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Or if the process, particularly if the employee is in some kind of direct customer support, right, and you start laying in controls where the employee can't solve problems, right. What a horrible job that becomes, right? I'm on the phone with a customer, or they're at the counter, and I can't solve their problem. I don't have the authority. I need to go get 2 layers of approval to return a $20 product. Right? It's like,
or I call customer service because I have a problem, and they need to wait to talk to somebody. They have to go talk to somebody else. But while they're waiting, they're going to sell you something. And there's a big trend. Well, if I have you on the phone, I'm going to sell you something. Or I'm going to give you some other offer, right? Well, we can upgrade you. And so my problem isn't fixed, but you're having this person attribute to a process that is, you have to offer them this. They're not having that responsibility. They can't make a decision like, this person's heated. I'm not going to try and sell them something right now, right? They have to. And I would propose that this is where the opportunity for AI really resides. And I've heard it said by many, they call them future thinkers, people that are really planning out the future and can see that. And they talk about those companies that are using AI to replace human contact and interaction, specifically like with their customer or each other. And those companies that are saying, we're going to take the mundane tasks that they shouldn't be doing, and we're going to create automated processes to free our employees up to talk to that customer. And that's where our success will lie. Have you read some of that as well?
Yeah. And, I think we've all probably by now, had some interaction with, an AI agent when you're trying to get help.
Right.
And the first generation of these are horrible, right? Mm-hmm. And ultimately, just lack any kind of nuance, can't help you solve the problem, right? And quite often you're stuck in a loop, and they won't let you get a human agent on the line, and so it's a terrible experience.
Horrible.
But I was just listening to a radio program the other day, and they said, AI, basically these large language models, it's a overstatement, but they house all human knowledge, right? Or virtually all human knowledge, and are able to access it in fractions of a second. So the successful use of AI becomes in the questions you ask. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, if I don't know how to make a good decision or present my case in a board meeting, I'm not going to know how to put it into AI and put a good prompt in.
Right. And, anybody who's used, ChatGPT or any of the other models, right? It's if you go ask it an ambiguous question,
right?
You will get, I've asked ChatGPT, I'll ask intentionally an ambiguous question, right? And what you'll get is the prevailing thought,
right?
From literature and news and social media and whatever. But then if you push back on it and you go, hey, is that really true, right? what are the facts? What are the counter arguments? You'll get that, but you just have to know what to ask and when to push back. It's fascinating.
And I do think that what they're doing with that is very fascinating. And I think when we're talking about process and we're talking about efficiencies within an organization, yes, AI can operate incredibly fast. And so using that to clean up some of our processes so that people can continue to interact with human beings that are frustrated, that need service, that don't understand, that are need some guidance or whatever they need, we're able to have processes in place that free me up as an employee, as a subject matter expert on my product or service, that I can help people and do that in a way that lowers people's emotions, because they may not know what the specific prompts are, but they want somebody to help them. And I really think that when we're looking at what is our mission, what are we here to accomplish, making sure that our process are moving people closer to people, that we do have more time to be creative, to interact with each other, to build innovation, having processes that are so efficient that we have the time to do that, versus creating processes that pull us away from that. And I would say, Dean, not even a decade ago, we in corporate America had more time to have coffee with each other, to just sit and brainstorm in the hallways, to jump on a call and discuss ways. Now, corporate America is so entrenched in task work that they don't even have time to do thinking work. Has been a trend that we're hearing and seeing in the workplace.
And that is misunderstanding activity for output, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Activity is, the activity level is almost irrelevant.
Right.
I mean, would you which employee would you rather have? An employee who is totally on task for an hour and a half a day, and they have tremendous output, and the rest of the time they screw around, right?
Right. Why are we so worried about what they're doing if they're producing?
And then somebody who's, nose down on task 8 hours a day, but has half the output of the other person. Well, maybe that time that they're screwing around, that is actually valuable time because their mind is free, right?
Absolutely.
To think, to
Absolutely.
be creative, and right, so
absolutely.
Those are extreme examples, but I'd rather have the employee who gets, has the output, and I don't really care, right, how they get there, as long as they're not hurting anybody.
Yeah. There was a company here years ago. They don't do it anymore. They used to do it. They called it a think tank. When you're done with your work, their technology team, go on over to start playing with stuff and come up with new apps, new ideas. Yeah. Dean, thank you so much for joining me today. Your closing thought?
Yeah, my closing thought is be careful what you measure, because that's what you're going to get.
Well said. This is Coach Cora on 9:30 a.m. The Answer on the People Playbook, and we are discussing ways to reduce the inefficiency of over-efficiency. I want to thank my brother, Dean, for joining me today. And as we close, here's the People Playbook reminder. Process should protect purpose, not replace it. Efficiency is not the enemy. Process is not the enemy. In fact, strong organizations need structure, systems, accountability, and consistency. But leaders have to be careful not to confuse more process with better performance. If we continue to keep adding tasks in the name of efficiency, we will unintentionally pull people away from the work that matters most. Our nurses need time with patients. Our officers need time in the community. Leaders need time with their team. And frontline employees need time with our customers. So before we add one more report, one more meeting, one more dashboard, or one more approval, let's ask ourselves some questions. process should serve the purpose? Does it? Am I adding a cost by adding another requirement without removing something? And is this efficiency keeping people closer to my mission? This is Coach Cora, and you've been listening to the People Playbook.
Thank you for listening to the People Playbook. For more information, Coach Cora can be found on LinkedIn and at CoachCora.com. Let's meet here next Saturday, 2 p.m. on 9:30 a.m. The Answer.
Hiring is one of the most important decisions a business makes, and the resume only tells part of the story. Coach Cora helps organizations bring data insight to the hiring process through assessments that look at communication style, work preferences, and personal motivators. But we don't just hand you a report and wish you luck. Each assessment includes a consulting meeting to help you understand what the data means and how to use it in the interview. Because when you understand how a person communicates, what drives them, and how they prefer to work, you can ask better questions, make stronger decisions, and build better teams. Go to CoachCora.com for details.